Hello, Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, Sat Sri Akal, and welcome you all on Unleash Your Excellence with NC. We talk about only excellence and simply excellence, and I'm sure you're enjoying your adventures with Excel on various tips and tricks. And if you're new to the channel, kindly subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification button so that you get the latest updates. What we are going to discuss today is a very mysterious topic which we all are concerned about. We all are worried about, or we all find it a mystery of working with dates in Excel. Sometimes the date format is a problem. Sometimes we feel whether we are entering the date, is it working properly or not? And that is what we are going to talk about today. So what we are going to talk about today is first understand certain things which are very important when we are entering date values in an Excel sheet. We'll need to look into how we are entering the date, whether it is a correct value or whether it is not a correct value. How does Excel consider dates, or how does Excel treats your date values? We'll talk about certain very useful functions related to dates which will help us make our Excel sheets more useful and doing a lot of work with it. We'll pick up scenario where we'll talk about calculating certain things and coming up with certain future dates which will be there. So we'll be talking about certain functions like days 360, and what is the difference between days and days 360, today, now, e-date, workday, Workday International, what is the difference between Workday and Workday International, network days, network days international. So these are some of the things which are very crucial when we are working with dates. Watch the video till the end, and I will be also covering about the time thing, where we will also see how to work with the time values what you enter in your Excel sheet cells, how to calculate the time difference. And before we go further on this, let's clarify one thing, or let's try to understand one thing. How does Excel treat a date value according to you? What is a date? If we enter, let's say, today's date, that is 17th October 2023. So if we are considering today's date and we enter 17/10/2023, does Excel consider it as 17/10/2023 as date, or is it some other thing? Because with dates we can do something called as date arithmetic. We can subtract two dates, we can add a number to a date, we can do these basic calculations with date. But how is it possible? In earlier videos we have discussed that text cannot be used for doing any kind of calculation. So is date a text? Because we have a slash, or sometimes we take a longer date format where we say 17 October as a word 2023. So how is date being treated by Excel, or for that matter for all IT systems whatever we are using? How is date considered? Dates are considered as numbers. What we see on our Excel sheet, or for that matter what we enter in our data when we are entering data in any of the systems what we are using, which can be any ERP system what we are using in our organization, it's a number. Now how is that number taken? If you know how is that number considered, please write it in the comment box. And so how is that number considered? That number is considered from the Gregorian calendar start date, that is 1st January 1900. So 1st January 1900 is given a number 1, and from that date onwards every date has a number to it. So 1st January 1900 is 1, 2nd January 1900 becomes 2, and so on. So if you want to see that, we will look at that as well. So these are the things which we are going to look at. So first thing what we have understood now is date is what we see is a date value, but then internally for Excel or for Excel it's a number which is taken from, or Excel treats it as a number which is from 1st January 1900. So let's start our journey with the dates and solve some mysteries which are there with the dates. First thing, whenever you are entering a date value in your Excel sheet in a cell, what you have to consider. Now that is something what is a very crucial thing which is there. There are two aspects to it. First is the date format of your system as a whole. What is the date format? Are we using US date format or are we using United Kingdom, that is UK date format? So if we are using UK date format, so the date format is DDMMYY, and if we are using US, then your date format is MMDDYYY. So that is what the difference between these two. While entering a date in an Excel sheet, first thing what we have to consider is what is my date format on the system, which we can always see from our taskbar which is there, and you will see that it shows you your date which is there in the taskbar right hand corner. You can see your date format. So if you enter the date in any cell in this format, it would be perfectly fine. Like for example, I am entering the date and it's fine. How do I know it is correct? The reason is my dates will always be right aligned in a cell. On the contrary, if I enter it in the reverse way, if I enter 10, 17, 20, 23, this is not a proper date. The reason, it is on the left hand side, and our system date format is the UK standard. So what we'll have to make sure is, we'll have to make sure that we enter the date in whatever date format we are following on our system. Yes, for Excel we can still use any other date format. We can use US or UK, which is not the same as the system format. So you can change the format there. So let's see how do we do that, and I suppose most of us might be knowing it. So we can go to a particular cell, go to dates and mode number format. In the date you will see it says United Kingdom. I can choose United States, for example. For Excel, the date format now is US, that is United States, but for the system it is still UK. So if I enter my date as 17, 10, 20, 23, it is okay because the system format is UK. So if you see, Excel has automatically converted it to United States format. But if I type the date as 10, 17, 20, 23, you see, because the system format is UK, even though Excel has the US standard, it does not consider it. So you will have to make sure that whenever you are entering a date value, you enter the value in the format which is your system format, so that Excel understands. So I'll just make it back to UK now. So this is what the basics or understanding the date values are. Let's see what I was telling in the initial part of the video was, that is, the date is a number. So let's type a date here, 01/01/1900. Now this is a date, and if I convert this to a number, you will see it shows us number 1, and that is the reason we can do date arithmetic. Internally it's a number. So let's see some of the functions which we are talking about. So there is a function called today. So if we type here, or if we go to the function formulas, date and time, and if we use today function, and sorry, I'll have to convert it back to date. So Today function shows you the current date, that is the current system date, and it is volatile. That means tomorrow if I open this Excel file, the date will automatically change. Another function what we can use here is the now function. The now function, if we use the now function, now function shows you the date and the time along with it. So you get the date, along with that you get the time value as well. That is the difference between the today and the now function. Let's look at certain things here. What we have is, I am taking a scenario here. What we have is some invoices which we have given to our customers. We have their invoice dates, we have the date of receipt of the payment. So I'll just keep these two columns visible here. So I have invoice date was 24th January 2023 and receipt date was 7th March. Now we want to find out how many days have passed, or how many days, after how many days was this invoice paid. Now there are two things what we can do. One is a simple calculation. We type equal to the receipt date. Now first we'll have to do the receipt, that is the closest date, and then we'll have to give the previous date. So the current and the previous. So we have to give a higher date and then the lower date, because higher date will have a higher number. So G2 minus, that is your receipt date, minus the invoice date, and I will convert this to number format. So we get 42 days. That means this invoice was paid after 42 days. This is one method of calculating. But there might be scenarios. Now there is another method to calculate that. There is a function available. Now if we use a function here, which we will use as network days, so we will use formulas, date and time, network days. Here also you'll have to give the start date and the end date. So I give the receipt date, end date is the invoice date, it has to be the reverse one. Start date is the invoice date and end date is the receipt date. So you get 31 days. Now how it has calculated 31 days? Network days has calculated 31 days, but when we were looking at your normal subtraction, it was giving 42 days. When we talk about network days considers weekends in between, and by default what it considers, Saturday and Sunday as a weekend, that is non-working days. So it will also consider those non-working days and will not include it in the calculation. Is that clear? So when we talk about network days, if we see the function here, has three parameters. One is the start date, end date. Now if you refer to my video on formulas and understanding functions and formulas, you will remember that, and if you have not seen that video, kindly go through that video and see how do we understand this function. There are three parameters: start date, end date, which are mandatory parameters, and holidays is a optional parameter. Now we can mention holidays here. By default Excel is only taking the weekends. You can give additional holidays. There is an additional function, or there is a variation in this function. I will show you in the next column. That is network days international. By default, as I said, network days takes Saturday, Sunday as a weekend. So if we go to another function, date and time, network days international, and we say our start date was the invoice date, end date was the receipt date. Now we have two additional parameters here. Two additional optional parameter, that is weekend and holidays. Weekend is a number what you have to give. Now this number is predefined. You can always go on to the help of this function and see what are those numbers, but I'll briefly tell you that. Like 1 is a default value, that is if you don't give, Excel considers it as one, and it considers Saturday and Sunday as a weekend. If you type 2, then Sunday and Monday will be considered as weekend. 3, Monday and Tuesday. 4, Tuesday and Wednesday. 5, Wednesday and Thursday. 6, Thursday and Friday. 7, Friday and Saturday. Now you might say, we don't get a 2 days weekend, we get only 1 day weekend. Not a problem at all. Excel also has options where you can give 1 day weekend as well, that is 1 day a week off. It is starting from 11, not from 8, please make sure. 11 is when you have only Sunday, 12 is only when you have Monday as a weekend, and so on. So you can specify that whether it is a 2 days weekend. So 2 days weekend starts from 1 to 7, and 1 day weekend starts from 11 onwards till it goes to Saturday. So let's say we see here. Now I will not use 1, the reason is it will give us the same result. I will give maybe 3, that is Monday and Tuesday is our weekend, and we click on OK. What does it say now? That between these 2 days there are 30 networking days, that is there are 30 days which are working days. Please consider network days considers working days, but there we don't have an option of giving weekends. In Network Days International we have an option of giving weekends, and we can specify that weekend. So let's try it with only 1 day weekend and see. If I give 11, that is where we are talking now. If you see, you can also see what is there when you start typing this parameter in Excel. So you get 37 working days. So you can say that this invoice was paid 37 after 37 working days from submission of the invoice. Both dates included. Both the dates are included. Other function is we want to find out. We have submitted an invoice and we say that we want the payment after 30 days. We want the payment after 30 days. So what would be the payment due date? So there is a function what Excel gives. So that is what we call it as workday. Here we say start date and we say that after 30 days, or you can say 90 days depending on your credit period. Now you can have a column where you can say that every customer has a credit period. So you can use that particular credit period for that particular customer. Here I am considering, let's say 60 days credit period, and click on OK, and it says that this invoice is due on, or the payment is due on 18th of April 2023. Easy, right? So now we know that when is our payment due. The payment is due on 18th April for the invoice which was raised on 24. Now this is the number of working days considering Saturday and Sunday as a weekend. We have not considered holidays here in between. Let's say we want to find out how many working days, that is, if we say that we want 60 working days and we want to find out what would be the payment due date, and considering, let's keep Sunday and Monday as our weekend. So, or maybe we can also consider Saturday, Sunday, that's our choice. So I will use another function, another variation in this function, that is Workday International. We say start date, number of days what we give is 90, but we here specify what are my weekends. My weekend can be, as I told you earlier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to give. I will give here, let's say our weekend is Thursday and or Friday and Saturday, that is 7th. So what we are saying is the invoice raised on 24th of January 2023 is payment is due by 30th of May 2023. Working days considering Friday and Saturday as non-working days. So this is what we are talking about, working days. If you want to straight away do that without working days, we can directly say equal to 24 that is the invoice date, plus 90 days. So plus 90, so we get a date which says that your invoice is now due on 24th of April 2023. So if you raise an invoice on 24th January and you say credit period is 90 days, straight 90 days without considering weekend or anything, the customer has to pay on 24th of April. So I hope certain mysteries, and I am sure certain mysteries of dates would have been clear now. We have tried to solve certain mysteries of the date. Continue watching, and now what we are going to look at is the mystery about the timings. We have a rooster, schedules for the people, coming time, going time, in time, out time, all those type of things. What we want to do is we want to find out how many hours a person has worked. For example, I am taking a simple example with this, and we can make it more complicated, and I can give you more clarifications. You can always ask questions on this video, put your comments in the comment box, and I can answer those questions. Here what you have is, we are making it very simple, and then you can build up on this. So what we are trying to do is, we are trying to first find out one thing, is how many hours a person has worked, so in a day. So what we will do is, I am creating a column here, in time and out time. In time and out time, I will go and format this column as time. Now you can keep this time, your choice, with AM PM, that is, you want the word AM and PM along with it, or you can keep a 24 hours calendar, that is the airline calendar or the army calendar, army time as we call it, or the airline time what we call it as. You can keep that time. So that is what we can do, or you can keep AM PM. I would prefer to keep, let's say, AM PM, and I would prefer to keep 24 hours time, that is your airline and army time. And in time I mention as 8:30, and out time I mention as 17:30. What I want to do now is, I want to find out how many hours a person has worked in the day. So very simple, equal to 17:30 minus 8:30, and you get a person has worked 9 hours. Now this is showing you in time format. I can change this and make it number. Now the moment you make it number, it starts showing you 0.38, which is not what I want to see. The reason is, I want to see it as 9. So what we will do is, or I'll do one thing, I'll make this 17 so that it is 8.5 hours. So it is 8 hours 30 minutes actually. But when we have to do a calculation, like for example, you are calculating an overtime for somebody, okay? And when you are calculating overtime for somebody, our standard working time is 8.5 hours, for example. And here when we have 8 hours 30 minutes, it is showing. But if we do a calculation equal to, and we are paying, let's say, not overtime as of now, we are paying them on hourly basis. So 8 hours 30 minutes a person has worked. So, and we are saying that $10 per hour is being paid. So if we start multiplying this with 10, we get a vague answer. We get 13 here, which is not what we want. We want a value. So if we have a person has worked for 8 hours 30 minutes, how much will he get? $10 per hour, 8 hours 30 minutes. Do the calculation, put it in the comment box. So it would be somewhere around 85 reals if I am not mistaken, correct? So what we need to do here is, this calculation what we have done for 8:30, we will multiply it by 24, and this number we will change it to number. So now we get, and this also we'll have to change it to number. So we get 8.5 here, we get 8.5 hours, because what it has done is, when we are multiplying it by 24, it is converting that 0.30, that is 30 minutes into 0.5, so that it can do the calculation in a better way. So it is calculating that percentage wise. So we get $85 what is to be paid to this person. So regarding time, you enter the time, and then when you do the subtraction, multiply it by 24, so that you get the hours which are there. I'll give you a hint, and I would request you to put your comments in the comment box on if I ask you a question. As such, this file would be shared with you. The link for the link will be shared in the description. Link is there in the description of the video. You can download the file, and what I would request you is, I want you to create a structure here where you have a standard working hours, let's say 8.5 hours, and beyond 8.5 hours, if somebody is working, a person gets an overtime of $5 per hour. I am keeping it simple for the time being. $5 per hour. I want to give them an overtime beyond 8.5 hours. This is the first part. Those who would be able to do this, please share it in the comment box on how you will do it. And then the next question or the next requirement which I want you to consider is that for up to 4 hours, the rate is overtime rate, that is additional 4 hours every day. The rate is $5 per hour, and beyond 4 hours, the rate changes to $7 per hour. So what would be the overtime which will be paid to the person if a person is working beyond 8.5 hours? So for the first additional 4 hours, a person gets $5 per hour, and for any additional hours after 4 hours, the person gets $7. So there is a difference of $2 after that. So, and what is the total overtime a person gets accumulated? Put this in the comment box, and let's see how many of us can do that. And I'm sure that you people would have enjoyed your adventure with Excel in this day with the dates. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for the channel if you have still not subscribed. Don't forget to hit the notification button, please, so that you get the latest updates for your journey on adventures to Excel. And like the video, share the video, subscribe for the channel, and share the channel with as many friends, as many relatives, so that everybody can